Well, I'm not going to catch every time it happens, but I really do think it's hypocritical when someone talks about the failures of a company, whether it be video game, movie-based, book-based, whatever, and then they don't acknowledge when they do something good. So today I wanted to talk for a couple minutes about Square Enix because they actually listened to the fandom, something that sadly doesn't happen that much anymore, but they did listen this time. And over a year after the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters sold out on PlayStation 4, and I believe the English version sold out on Switch as well, but there was a Play Asia version that had English options for it, so you could always get a Switch version. It's just a lot of people didn't want that version, or they wanted the non-international one. I digress. After this happened, now instead of in April 2023, now in actually August 2024, a little over a year, it's back. They actually are doing physical editions of this game again. They are reprinting it, and it is available to pre-order at various different places. Now, as of recording this, I actually don't have affiliate links or anything like that, but I will include some of the links on where you can pre-order this in the description below if you're interested, because I know you can get it on Amazon as well as Best Buy. But this is actually a big deal because, as you may have watched before, this was seen as one of the most, I guess, egregious slaps in the face to Final Fantasy fans in the past, just because of how limited it was and how it basically sold out overnight with absolute radio silence from Square Enix on if there would ever be any more of them. So we're going to talk about this for a couple more minutes, but before we hop into it, I do have a question of the day for you, which is, what are your thoughts on the Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster Collection, just in general? Because I've seen a lot of thoughts, positive and negative. I've seen some people call this the definitive versions of these games. I've seen other people call them just completely nerfed, talking about censorship, saying the scrolling issues bother them, and some stuff like that. So genuinely, I don't really have a stake in that argument, but I want to know what you think and why you think it. Do you like these versions of the game or not? Let me know. Now, it's worth noting that when this originally sold out, it was also a slap in the face to a lot of fans because there were versions that were canceled. Like, I believe the European PlayStation 4 version or the PAL PlayStation 4 version was completely canceled. It just didn't happen. So what ended up happening was there was really only, I believe, an American PS4 version for English-speaking audiences, and that sold out right away. And then there were a lot of people who are pretty much terminally online who didn't actually want the game themselves. They just bought it and then they were reselling it for something like $500 to $1,000 US. Like, for comparison, if you're not in America, the typical American PS4 and PS5 game nowadays is like $70 new. So you have to think that's over 10 times the amount if you were landing near $1,000, which there were a lot of them being resold for $1,000, especially the big boxed version, the collector's version. Now, my favorite thing about this, other than the fact that the company just listened and there's going to be more now that it actually is being restocked, is that first off, it's not coming out that far in the future. It is something like October, I believe October 8th, actually. Yeah, so that's when they say it'll be released. So that's not very far from now when I record this video. So it's not like it's a limited run game where, you know, it's 6 months to a year in the future you can expect it to come. This is actually something in a couple months that people will be able to get their hands on if they want a physical copy of the games. That said, the other thing I absolutely love about this, because I am petty, is that it is going to completely devalue the physical version of the game for everyone who had the original version, because there will be no one who will be willing to spend that kind of money on it on eBay, which I think is a good thing. I think one of the biggest problems with video game preservation is greed, not just from the companies unwilling to reprint or remake games, but also from fans, or I don't even think you would be a fan. Like, if you really were a fan of a video game, I don't think you'd want to price gouge someone, you know, 20 times what its original value was just in order to get the most out of it. I would think you'd want to be fair. So I don't even consider the people who resell these games for that amount fans. I don't think they really are. But I do think that the people online who take advantage of that limited quantity and that quality of older games, where people have a nostalgia for them, or they want to experience it, or they want to have a legitimate copy of it, those resellers taking advantage of it are one of the main reasons why we can't have nice things. They're one of the reasons why the retro video game bubble is so stupid, why it blew up so much, and why games that really should be seen as fun, but, you know, software from the past, not that that makes it bad, but something that's great, but, you know, isn't modern technology, it's made it explode in value to the point where people can't enjoy it anymore, and it's made retro gaming only for people who either emulate or who are rich. There's really no retro gaming market of good video games for people who aren't one of those two anymore, which is really too bad. It's a shame. It pushes people away from older games. Now, these games were available digitally. No one ever denied that, but as far as buying it digitally, it was something where it remained expensive most of the time, and I think Square knew that that was the only way you could actually get the game nowadays if you wanted to. Now, there are ways to emulate all of these games, and I will actually say that there are versions of these games that I consider better than the Pixel Remaster. Like, for example, or at least I should say different. Like, for example, the Game Boy Advance version, I believe, of, I think it's 6, but I'd have to look. There's like exclusive dungeons and bosses in that didn't even make it into the Pixel Remaster. I have no idea why they didn't put that version in here, but they didn't. So something a lot of people do with some of those games, because I believe a couple of them have it, is they'll do something like emulate it, and then they'll mod it to put in the original music, because the GBA music is considered a little inferior in sound to the original music, and then they will have that definitive version of the game right on their PC for free. Because this game is very old, and for many, many years it wasn't really sold, or at least it wasn't sold competently. There were some versions of these games floating around, some were good, some were not, but the Pixel Remaster was supposed to come out and fix a lot of these issues. Unfortunately, it didn't include all the extra content, so that's something to keep in mind if you are interested in this. I just think it's really cool that they actually did listen, that they are reprinting this game. I have no idea in what state though. Something I'd be interested in is, because this game did receive updates, I'm wondering now, is the new physical editions of these just the day one editions from when it came out a year ago, or does this include the updates on disc or on cartridge? That's something that's great for video game preservation when companies do it. I haven't really seen a lot of games when they reprint with patches or updates. So that would be something cool if that's done. Overall, I'm just happy that they listened, and I felt like I should address this because I don't really want to be the person who like went on a whole rant for 20 minutes about how they just completely ignored the fandom, and then they ended up actually listening to the fandom a year later. I think that does deserve some credit. I'm still disappointed with how this was handled in the first place. Like, not only does it seem like these ports could have been a little better done, but also the physical distribution of them could have been handled way better. So overall, I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on the game. What do you expect? Do you expect anything at all? Do you care? Do you not? I know a lot of people, they were burned by the original release so much that they just went emulated the games and they're not going to buy it on a re-release anyway. But I think I am, because it actually goes to show this company that there is a demand for these games, that people do want old turn-based RPG games now, that people are willing to actually get these retro games. And one of my biggest complaints I will end on, and something I've seen a lot of people complain about, is they'll say things like, well, I emulate because there's no way to actually buy this game now. There's no way to legally buy this game. There's no way to legally support this game. So why would I just not play the game? Look at things like Pokemon Emerald. I always bring it up. It's like $200 for an authentic cartridge with a replaced battery for the GBA. Well, why wouldn't you emulate that? Why would you spend $200 on that cartridge that Nintendo doesn't even care to reproduce? They don't care to even make it available digitally for you to buy. Why wouldn't you emulate it? That's a very, very fair attitude I've seen a lot of times. Unfortunately, though, these companies look at money. So when things like this come out, if they're not successful, they just say, well, I guess we shouldn't re-release old games. So for me, I think this was a competently done re-release. There are things I wish had been better, but overall, I'm still excited to play it again, and I will be supporting it for that reason. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Please leave a like, subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and very briefly, if you do want to help support actual physical products, we have our own store, cosmobunny.shop, where we sell our own coasters, keychains, trays, and more, also handmade jewelry. These coasters, keychains, and trays, they are taken from comic book and manga paper that can't be sold, so these are comics and manga that have been damaged. We salvage some of the paper that is actually usable. We make stuff out of them for your home that's transformative. Really cool art. I love it very much. My wife does most of this. It's fantastic in my opinion. It's supposed to be what transformative art was about. So the link will be in the description down below to CosmoBunny.shop, where you can use code DJAY123 for 10% off your purchase. Have a fantastic day, and as always everyone, stay shui.